Hello and welcome to Connecting Kitsap. My name is Matt Murphy and I'm the president of the Port Orchard Chamber of Commerce and your host for today's podcast. With Connecting Kitsap, we put you in touch with what to do, where to go, and the people to know in Kitsap County. Hello and welcome to this episode of Connecting Kitsap. My name is Matt Murphy and I am the host of this podcast. And today we are joined by representatives from the South Kitsap School District, where we're going to discuss an upcoming levy they have on the November 9th ballot. Seems like a terrible time to be running a levy, but in this episode we're going to discuss with them about why it is necessary, what it funds, and how much it's going to cost everybody. But before you do that, I want to thank our sponsors. Returning sponsors this year, the President's Circle for the Port Orchard Chamber of Commerce. We have the Peninsula Credit Union. Thank you. Dana's Heating and Cooling, love those guys. I didn't announce last week, but we also have Port Orchard Ford coming back, Don Jake CPA coming back, Excel Business Systems, local Canon dealer here in town coming back as sponsors. We also have ServPro coming back as a bronze sponsor. Thank you guys. We also have Victor Thompson from the Thompson Agency Farmers Insurance coming back. And a new sponsor this year, I want to give a big shout out to Sunrise Chimney. Thank you guys for joining the family. And so now let's go ahead and jump on into the conversation that I had with Superintendent Winter, Assistant Superintendent Jennifer Farmer, and the Public Information Office, and none other than the voice of South Kitsap School District, Amy Miller. So welcome everybody, and thanks for joining me today. Today on our Connecting Kitsap podcast, I have the South Kitsap School District Superintendent Tim Winter, as well as the Assistant Superintendent for Business Operations, Ms. Jennifer Farmer, and the one and only, the voice behind South Kitsap School District, Amy Miller, who is the Public Information Officer. And I think for those of you that are part of the school district, she's the voice on the automated texts or the messages that come out. So welcome everybody. Thanks for joining me today. Boy, we got a lot of things to talk about today.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Absolutely. So the first thing I want to touch on real quick is this nasty thing called COVID-19. I was talking with somebody, and I'd actually had my first Zoom meeting about a week before the lockdowns happened. And one of the first meetings, I gotta tell you, one of the first meetings I ever watched on Facebook, I think, was actually a school district meeting. And it was the very first time, Superintendent Winter, that I had heard it referred to as COVID-19. I think you were quick to refer to it as COVID-19 as opposed to the coronavirus. So I learned a lot in that brief little meeting there. It was one of the first ones. The first online meetings that I actually had an opportunity to listen to. So how's it been? I mean, you were in the job for what, probably 5-6 months when all of this stuff hit the fan?
Yeah, it seems like that was a long time ago. And but yeah, it was 2/3 into my first year in South Kitsap when we all shut down on March 13th. And then our worlds, as the world's world turned upside down, I think our school district world turned upside down as well. And we had to figure out how we were going to educate our kids in a way that was not what we were used to and what we signed up for in the beginning, or anyone really signed up for. So yeah, it's been challenging. I think that one of the things that has been really positive is we've learned a lot. We've learned a lot about ourselves. We've learned a lot about our district and what's possible. And our staff has gone above and beyond to really do some great things, to really make remote learning something that is valuable for students and valuable for staff. And so we've been successful, and it hasn't been without hiccups. I think we've hit some barriers and some roadblocks along the way. But one of the great achievements, I think, of the last 9, almost 10 months now was Monday, we brought our kindergarten, first grade, and second graders back in person. So that's the first really full classes of in-person learning we've had since March of 2020. And so going to schools now and seeing students in their masks and sitting 6 feet apart and learning with their teachers is pretty inspiring.
Yeah, it was funny today when I was heading into town. I got stuck behind a school bus. It's like, gosh, it's almost been a year since I've been stuck behind a school bus.
Yeah, we forget that those big yellow things are rolling around out there until we see them.
Yeah, we really do. So, so one of the reasons why I kind of asked you guys here this morning is to talk about an upcoming levy that you guys have proposed, and it is an education program and operations levy. And so, so quite frankly, what is the difference between a levy and a bond? Because I know in the past you guys have tried for bonds, and you've tried for levies, and you've passed some, and you haven't passed others. But what's the difference between a levy and a bond?
So that's a really important question. I think one of the things that that is commonly said in education is levies are for learning and bonds are for building. So what we have seen most recently in South Kitsap has been bonds that we've tried to pass, and those take a 60% supermajority in order to pass. The one thing that's different about a levy, it takes a 50% simple majority. So we have been very successful over the past few years. Our community has been very supportive in their empowerment of students and staff in South Kitsap. And so the levy really, you talked about the educational programs and operations levy. The last time we went out for a levy, it was called a maintenance and operations levy. The state changed the name of that. And so really now with McCleary, which we can dig a little bit deeper into, but they have said levies are really for enrichment. And enrichment means for us music and arts, athletics, activities, and goes all the way into transportation and technology, some nurses, counselors, some other positions like that. And I think the important thing for our community is that, and we've shared this in our presentations, that our community expects more than basic education. And I also think our community deserves more than basic education. So what happens within the classroom, the reading, writing, and arithmetic, that's the basic part. The enrichment or anything beyond that is what the levy in our community supports.
I like that empowerment part because in my role with the chamber, I do have an opportunity to work with some of the youth organizations, and I know that when I see the DECA kids and when I see the junior ROTC kids, and we've had the music folks come and perform at a luncheon once in a while. We've given out scholarships, and it's like, frankly, I'm encouraged by what the product that's being spit out by the South Kitsap School District, and it gives me some what's the word, hope for the future, I guess. Because there are a lot of great things, and I know without something like those programs, I have a nephew that participates in the sports and things like that. So I know that they're all critical to what goes on at the school district. So you briefly mentioned McCleary, and I thought that a couple years ago the state fixed everything. They wave their magic wand or do whatever they do in Olympia, and it fixed everything. And I thought that it was all good and paid for now. So why is this even necessary? Or maybe I don't know if is this something Jennifer wants to address as far as why this situation exists even. And
Sure.
Okay.
Hi, Matt. Thanks.
Yeah.
So the McCleary decision really did increase funding to public education, but only in the way that they defined basic education. And as Tim was saying, we're providing, and we think our community expects more than a basic education. So where we don't get funded by the state for music, arts, athletics, activities, all of those things are really critical to getting our kids engaged and having them find their passion and their spark in our buildings. And on top of that, the state decides how much they think we should be funded for certain things. And one of the really critical examples I can give you is nursing. So the state decides that we should be funded for about 1.5 nurses. But we have 270 students with life-threatening conditions. We had almost 40,000 health room visits in the year before we were shut down. So our 7 and soon to be 8 nurses are really spread very thin trying to take care of all of our kids. And this is well beyond boo-boos and Band-Aids and into kids who have, diabetes and concussions and other syndromes that are really critical and need monitoring. So while the state does provide a basic education formula, it doesn't necessarily provide what we are giving to our students and therefore our community in a number of different ways. I would also point out that in 2017, the percentage of our budget that was the local levy, we called it M&O then, we call it EP&O now, was about 20.5% of the budget as a whole. And where we are now is more at 15% of the budget as a percentage of the whole that is coming from our local levy.
But and Jennifer, you mentioned that you think that the community deserves or expects more from us. Why do we need this money? You know, can somebody summarize that a little bit more? Why do we need an empowerment budget, basic education? Isn't that supposed to be good enough for everybody?
Well, I think that I don't think good enough ever is enough. I think we have to always strive for the very best that we can be, and I think that's one of our visions for South Kitsap, is that we would be a top 5 school district in the state of Washington. In order to do that, we have to provide the opportunities for our students. And so here's a good example: music. We have a really strong and robust music program, K through 12, in our district, which includes choral music, band, and orchestra. And many districts don't have a strings program or an orchestra program like we do. And if they do, it's isolated to a school or a couple grade levels. We have orchestra K through 12. And I think that music program, one of the key pieces is we talk about what the levy funds. The state provides 0 music teachers as part of basic education. We have 23 music teachers in South Kitsap. And so in order for us to keep a robust music program, and there's all sorts of research out there that talks about the impact that music has on learning and critical thinking and those kind of things, we need to be able to supplement that. And again, that goes with the community support and how they can empower our students and our staff to really give this whole child education rather than just the very basics. And again, because that enrichment piece is left up to the local communities to provide their support, school districts around the state are put in a position to try to prioritize what kinds of things that money would go towards and what's important to our community. And I think as we look at the South Kitsap community, there are a lot of things over the years. There's a great tradition in South Kitsap. And there are some things, traditional things, that I think our community places a high value on. I think music, I think athletics, activities, those are some of the things that we think are important. At the same time, there's some really strong academic things, advanced placement and Spanish immersion that we have at Burley Glenwood Elementary, Project Lead the Way, some things like that are really strong programs and really push our kids to be more than just basic, are really reliant on the community support that the levy funds bring in.
So what about special education? Where does special education fit in to the funding picture? You know, as far as basic education is concerned, or and the work that you guys do in special education. You guys don't do any of that at South Kitsap School District, do you?
Jennifer, go ahead.
Actually, really glad that you brought that up, because Tim and I both like to say that one of the things we love about public education is that we take care of everybody to the best of our ability. About 15% of our total student enrollment is in special education in some variety at this point. And those kids really need to have very specialized, individualized services that are provided to them. It's well known at the state level that special education remains short of full funding. Our local levy really contributes quite a lot to ensure that our special education students get what they need. And that is something the state continues to debate. We understand the legislature had a tough job. Not that many legislators were educators, and they don't necessarily understand the magnitude of what a special education student might need. In fact, they fund a quarter of one psychologist for us, and psychologists are legally required to assess the special education students and whether or not the services they're getting are adequate and working. We definitely can't service 1,500 roughly students with 0.25 of one psychologist. So that's an area that where where the basic education plan didn't fall quite where we would hope of what we think is needed.
So that's, I think that's an important thing to point out, that, you know, it's one of those areas that if you don't need special education, you don't even really think about it. And so I guess I wanted to ask you a little bit about background. You know, why now? Why now? And I don't know who wants to answer this question. You know, why are we doing it now? I mean, after with everything that's going on right now, you know, we got COVID and we've got people, you know, the economy's not doing super well, and then the school district comes out and they want some more money, and in reality, it's not more money. You know, somebody want to talk about that?
Let's start with Amy on this one, and then we can pick up as kind of a group effort here.
Okay, so why now is our educational levies, they run on a 4-year cycle, and this measure is replacing the one that expires at the end of 2021. So that's a big part of why now. Another part of why February specifically is part of our budgeting cycle. Our teaching staff, part of their contract is they need to be notified, I believe by the end of May, what their next year is going to look like. And that's a huge part of our budget. So that's part of, we need to know what our budget is going to be, including levy funds, in planning for the next coming years. So Jennifer may have some to add to that, but that's why I think why now. That's the biggest piece of it, because it's part of 15% of our budget overall, and we need to know what's happening with that 15%.
Exactly. That's very accurate. If we don't have the levy to plan for budgeting for the 21-22 budget year, which is a different cycle than the tax year, then we would be looking at $12 million less in our budgeting plan for that following year. We think it's important that we're able to maintain the stability within the community and our students and staff as to what's going to happen in the next year. Planning for the contingencies is not where we want to start off our year, and we're really looking at this levy as being what takes us forward out of the pandemic. There's a vaccine on the horizon. We're moving forward. We certainly respect that this time has been very difficult on everyone, but we are looking at 2022 through 26 for this levy to take us beyond into the future and out of the current unfortunate, very difficult situation we're in.
And I think, Matt, your question why now is really critical, because we've been out of school up until this week for 9 months. And I think that the community has suffered because of the pandemic. We keep reminding ourselves and our community, it's a health pandemic, it's not an education pandemic, but all of us have been forced into changing our lives and the way we do business. But the important thing about the levy is it's really a forward-thinking levy. It is a replacement of what we're currently doing, but it provides 4 more years of that community support as we move into the future, and things will get back to what we would call a typical situation in education. However, at the same time, I mentioned earlier, we've learned some things along the way. I think it's going to be a better normal than it was back in March of last year. I think we've learned so much about technology and even changing the way that we teach students and how students learn, that I think we will be able to adapt and grow and develop new systems for education, because education has been around for a long time. You mentioned your family history in South Kitsap, and there's some things you probably could trace all the way back that have been pretty typical in American K-12 education. But one of the great opportunities we have now is to do some innovative things because of some of the things we've learned.
So I think you may have all mentioned it at some point, but this is a replacement levy. What exactly does that mean? And you know, historically, where have we been? And this is a replacement levy, and so what does that mean?
Well, let me give a quick little overview, and then I'm going to have Jennifer talk about numbers. But really, it is it is continuing, like I said, continuing with the support that the community has provided us over the last 4 years. So a lot of times we'll talk about, we don't want any new taxes, and nobody wants new taxes. We understand that, but this is not a new tax. It is a replacement or continuing tax that has already existed and that will continue on for the next 4 years. So I'll throw that to Jennifer then to give us a little bit more information about what that really means.
Sure, thanks, Tim. So the 2017 measure that we ran and passed was for $3.73 per $1,000 of assessed value for each year across the 4 years. We've never actually collected that much. We've been below that each year. There was statutory limitation in 2019 that limited us to $1.50. And now for the last year and the current calendar year, we're leveled off right at about $2.50 per $1,000 of assessed value. And what we're seeking is to replace that. We're not looking at anything more than $2.50 per thousand of assessed value. And it very well may decrease over the 4 years of collection based on 3 major factors that are very difficult to predict in advance. Those are the growth rate, how our properties are growing as far as value, inflation or CPI, and our enrollment. How many kids we have to serve is a factor, and how we collect our money. And there is a second caveat that McCleary legislation put in. You can collect up to $2.50 per thousand of assessed value, or a maximum per student, which for 2021 is $2,500. And we're actually reaching that threshold for the first time since that legislation went into effect. So our tax rate for the current calendar year is looking at $249 because we've hit that cap.
So you threw out those 3 factors. So the amount of money you're looking for, and I saw it on a presentation that I got, which we'll make available to everybody, is for a dollar figure. If values go up, if property values go up, you're not going to get more money. You're always going to shoot for that amount of money. It just could conceivably divide it out amongst more people, right?
Exactly. Well,
Okay.
we are required to put on the ballot the maximum that we can collect.
Okay.
Well,
so
let me rephrase that. We must put on the ballot the amount we're looking to collect, and that is a maximum.
okay. And so right now we're at about 2.5, and that's what the replacement is looking at, 2.5, and then conceivably it could go down from there, right?
Exactly. Yes.
All right, cool. So so I guess the $1 million question, or in this case, the multi-million-dollar question, is how much money are you looking for? You know, what's 250? What does that mean?
Sure. So 250 in the year 2022 is just under $28 million total dispersed amongst the taxpayers. And that escalates each year based on those factors I just discussed to 30 million in 2023, 33 million in 2024, and 36 million in 2025. That said, based on where we see these factors going, we will be collecting less than that.
So Jennifer, what you're telling us, you know, as far as dollar figure and as far as numbers and stuff are concerned, you know, because we do with McCleary, and the state stepped up and they increased their taxes, and they put the lid on you guys and said you can't collect this, and then they lifted that a little bit, and now you could. Traditionally, it's been a roller coaster. I mean, I'm looking at a graph here now, and it literally goes like this. You know, say over the last 10 years or so ago, where will we be in comparison to then, and how, I know, look in your crystal ball here now and tell me, you know, kind of what the future looks like. And I guess most we can say is 250, right?
That's right. That will be the most that we'll say that the local tax collection will be 250. Likely will be less than that. But looking across the last decade, we definitely, our taxpayers had a rough go there. When the McCleary legislation was first implemented, taxes went up, and then the next year they went down quite a bit as the legislature constricted what we could collect, and they also had a little bit of a tax decrease from the state level that year. And then the next year it went back up. But at this point, what we're looking at is flat and declining total tax rate as far as what the district can affect. Last year, the total was 607. This year, we're at 601. And as a function of looking back over the last decade, I mean, we were at 611 back in 2014. And we've been just close to $6 quite a number of the years in there. So the seesawing action should be over at this point. We obviously aren't in control of what the state taxation is, but as far as what the district's asking for the next 4 years, it'll be $2.50 per thousand or less.
Right. Okay, cool. So, there's, like I said earlier, I've got a long history here. I think some of the people in South Kitsap, we got memories that go on forever and ever and ever. And I invariably hear about at some point in the past, and nobody can put their finger on it, but mismanagement or wasted funds and things like that. Is there anything, can you address some of that and um, maybe improvements that have been made? I know you said the budget has gone down, that the local responsibility has gone down. Any comments on the naysayers that don't think that the school district is being as fiscally responsible as they could be?
And yes, and Matt, I appreciate that question because I think it's an important one. And while I've only been here now almost 2 years, as I mentioned before, South Kitsap has a strong tradition, and with tradition there is memory. And I think it's important. We really believe in accountability. We think it is important that if we say to our taxpayers, this is how money is going to be spent, we follow through with that. And I don't know for sure what has happened in the past, but I know this: as we move forward, uh, all of us collectively are really focused in on the fact that we have a responsibility to take care of the taxpayers' money, to take care of the resource. It's a community resource, our school district. And we believe that the district is a big part of the community, and vice versa, the community is a big part of the district. And so, as I mentioned, as we go out for a levy, we need to make sure that we're clear on what the expectation is of that money, and then we need to follow through with that. And an example, I think, is that we had a capital levy that was approved, and we're nearing the end of that cycle, but those projects are being completed as we go through. And not only are they being completed, they're being completed for the most part under budget. And we're able to move some of the money within that capital levy to make sure those projects are completed. But the days of being way over budget and the days of not following through in any system, not just South Kitsap, I think we have to be really careful with that. And I think we have been really diligent in our planning and preparation and budgeting with the capital levy. And I hope that our taxpayers see that what we've been able to complete with their money is a boost as far as confidence and trust in the district. Another thing that has happened consistently is we get clean audits year after year after year through the state. And so that tells us that we are handling the money, all of our money well, whether it's money from the levy or from the state or in any other area. But I think it's important. And like I said, I believe in accountability. I think that we should be held accountable for how taxpayers' money is spent. And we take that very seriously. And so again, as we look forward into the future, this money it supports the programs that are in place and allows us to do some of the innovative things that we would like to do, but it has to have an impact on our community in a positive way.
All right, outstanding. So throwing a lot of information out there, and I've mentioned I'm reading off of some graphs and stuff that was sent to me from the school district. Amy, can you touch on where people can find more information? Are you guys going to be doing any other outreach programs? So that, and then I guess if people have questions, I don't know, maybe give me your cell phone number or something like that, and I can.
Well, yeah, we're doing our best to get the facts about the levy out there. Thank you for hosting this video chat. That's helpful. We do have 2 community town hall Zooms coming up. The first one is on January 19th, and then another on January 27th. Information about those is on our website and also on the district Facebook page. Another thing is the district sends out a levy fax mailer to every resident in our district boundaries. It looks like this. look, the writing's backwards in the Zoom screen, but you get an idea of what it looks like. That comes to your mailbox about the time that ballots arrive, which will be any day now. So those are the ways to find out the facts. Our website is skschools.org. And any questions, I can just call the main number for the school district. And questions can also be sent to info@skschools.org, and we'll respond to people right away.
Outstanding. So we did get our ballot. I think it was yesterday. The they're due on February 9th,
Yes,
right?
February 9th.
Okay. All right,
Mhm.
February 9th. So we've got about 3 weeks. 3 weeks to get your ballots, get them in. Before we wrap things up, I know that the school district officials cannot go out there and at least officially wave signs. But is there anything that you'd like to say to wind things up there, Superintendent Winter?
Yeah, I think we have to be careful because we can't use our school time to promote the levy. We can use our private time. So if you see staff members waving signs or making phone calls, that's during their private time, off hour time. But we're really careful that we don't promote the levy in any way during our school hours. We're just here to share the facts. But I will say this in closing, I really do appreciate the opportunity to just talk today. We really appreciate the support of our community, and sometimes that support shows up in terms of money, like through a levy, but it's also in just the way that our community supports our schools. And you look at the flags downtown on Fridays, and the way that there's a lot of pride in South Kitsap. And again, I keep going back to the tradition, but that's one of the things that attracted me to this district is the pride in South Kitsap, and that's community support. And so there's that support. Then there's the financial support that our levy has provided over the years, which we are really grateful for. And again, we want to be good stewards of the money. That's part of our strategic plan, and we hope to continue to provide the very best education for our students in our community that we can.
All right, thank you. So while nobody from the school district can come right out here and say vote yes, and I suppose I they would encourage. I would encourage everybody to go online, to do their research, to ask the questions, to make informed decisions when they're filling out their ballots. I don't know. I haven't opened my ballot. Are you guys the only thing on it?
Mhm.
So the only thing you got to do is you got to check one box on the ballot, send it back in, make an informed decision. I would encourage nobody to make any knee-jerk reactions, gut votes, anything like that. Become informed and make an informed decision. So I want to thank everybody here for joining me today. And again, if you have any other questions, go ahead and shoot them over to the school district. I'm sure they would be more than happy to help you answer those questions. And it's conceivable that the superintendent may be willing to come and talk to your service group if you really want. If you want an in-person opportunity to I guess there are no in-person opportunities, are there?
No, but we will Zoom with you anytime, any day. So just let us know.
Yeah. So if you want to have if you want to do a Zoomie with the superintendent or anybody else at the school district, let them know. So thank you guys for joining me, and I hope the rest of your guys' week and the rest of the month goes well. And I wish you guys all of the success come February 9th at 8 p.m.
All right. Thank you, Matt. We appreciate it.
You
Thank
bet.
you.
Thank you.
You bet. All right.
Well, there you have it, folks. A conversation with Superintendent Winter and South Kitsap School District staff on the upcoming ballot measure for a levy for South Kitsap School District. It's for the Educational Programs and Operations levy. I would encourage everybody to do their research, go to their website, take a look at that information, send them an email, give them a call if you have a question. But whatever you do, make an informed decision. And as I'm sure you're all aware, this last election has proven how important all the votes are. So please go out and vote. Don't forget to do that. In the meantime, go ahead and like our Facebook page, follow us on YouTube. We also have Spotify. The podcast is up on Spotify now. I encourage you to go out and take a look at that. Also, coming up here in the future, we have a discussion with Victor Thompson from the Thompson Agency Farmers Insurance, a discussion on the 2020 year in review for the Port Orchard Chamber of Commerce. as well as some discussions on what we have planned and what we hope to accomplish in 2021. Also have a discussion with Chris Kirkley from the Peninsula Credit Union on the new round 3 of the payroll protection. So I encourage you all to check in, listen to that. In the meantime, have a great day, and I will talk to you all later. Thanks.